Hi there. In this video, I'll show you how to test your chatbot. Although a lot of it is pretty obvious, some things may not be, and I'll be showing you some things you may not already know how to do. So, to test your chatbot, there are two ways to go about it. The first one is to test it on a HTML page, which is great for testing things like questionnaires, seeing what the design looks like, checking that the features you've activated work correctly, etc. The other way is to test it directly through your cloudlet. Though testing on a HTML page is absolutely okay, I'll be showing the process through the cloudlet for the video today. You'll want to mostly finish your model before you start testing. Create it, crawl a website or files, and do the configuration. So first, log into your cloudlet. Go to Machine Learning from Manage, and here find the model you want to test. Click the Test button. Now you can start asking your chatbot questions related to its training data. The model in this cloudlet is a demo only made for these tutorials, so the results will not be as high quality as the one on our website, for example, but let's ask it what iNero is. Depending on the amount of data in the model, OpenAI's response times, which vary, for example, with the different models and your internet connection, it might take a couple of seconds. Here you can see how it replied and sanity check the result. At the bottom, you can click Preview to see the reply in HTML, which means you can see any hyperlinks displayed as links instead of markdown. You can see images and any other formatting. Under the reply, you can see a couple of links. These are the pages that were used to find the correct answer. As long as your model has URLs on its snippets, you will see a list like this when testing your own model as well. These URLs are the same that would be used if you activate the references feature on your chatbot, and they're the links that would be returned if you typed this same question into an AI search of this model. If your model doesn't have URLs in its snippets, next to prompt and not in the completion, it will not return any URLs at the bottom while testing, and it cannot be used for AI search or for references. At the very bottom, you can see how many seconds it took to fetch embeddings. This means how long it took to match the question with the correct training data. This is usually less than half a second, depending a bit on your model size. If your model has a lot of snippets, like in the thousands, it might take a couple of seconds. The rest of the time it takes the model to reply is whatever time ChatGPT spends wording the response. This is also why we launched the streaming feature, which instead of waiting for ChatGPT to word the entire response before sending it as a single message, gives you the option to have the chatbot type out word by word instead, which gives the user the illusion that it's faster. Now, you're going to have to figure out what kind of questions to ask your model based on what kind of things it's been trained on, but I have some tips. Apart from its own training data, you should test how the model replies when you just write things like, "Hello, can I speak with a human, severe spelling errors?" And if it's keeping a conversation well, for example, by saying that doesn't work after it gave you tips on how to solve some imaginary problem. Let's say our first issue is that the chatbot returned an incorrect reply. The solution is pretty simple. First, did the incorrect reply contain URLs at the bottom? If so, you're going to want to check your training data, because the reply did come from your own training data somehow. Let's go to Training Data, Sort on Model, click the VSS checkbox and type the same question in the search bar. This means you're not searching for prompts or URLs anymore, you're doing a VSS search, aka you're seeing the snippets that would match with this question in the same order it does in the backend. That means the snippet on the top is the number one match to this question, etc. Usually, the first 5 to 15 snippets will be used as context for ChatGPT, depending a bit on their token count and your model's max tokens. Let's pretend none of these snippets actually had valuable information about iNero at all. The solution is pretty simple. Just manually add a new snippet with the exact question, "What is iNero?" as the prompt. Make sure the completion is descriptive, but it doesn't need to be perfect, as ChatGPT will take care of the wording. Next, if you are finding snippets here that contain the correct information, but maybe one that has old and conflicting information, that may be why the model replied incorrectly. delete the incorrect and outdated snippet, or edit it if only parts of it is incorrect. Maybe the model replied incorrectly, but you're not finding any errors here. Your model has the correct training data, and the correct training data is the top match. In that case, your issue is with your system message. Compare your system message with our predefined flavor of sales executive, and make sure you have the rules about only using the provided context. Play around with it a bit. Does that still not work? Then you should check if the threshold is too high. You can do this by going to Manage, then Hyperlambda Playground. Click on Snippets at the top and search for context. You want to use the Magic AI Get Context snippet. Use this as a template, but change the info here. Type should be your model's name. Prompt should be the question your model can't reply to. Threshold should be the same number as your model currently has, and so should tokens. Then click Run at the bottom. Now you can see the snippets that were matched with this question. If no snippets are matched, your threshold is too high, your max tokens is too low, or both. Change these numbers up a bit and run it again until you see that it's matching the correct training data. Once it's matching the correct training data, make a note of the numbers on threshold and tokens and go back to your model. Change these numbers and test it normally again. It should give a good result now. Next, let's say your model replied incorrectly, but your model has the correct training data, it's just not matched at the top. The solution to this is to copy the information either from the correct snippet or your website and go to History. Here you can find the question it replied to incorrectly. Click Edit on it. Now edit the text and click Train on the bottom before saving. Now you've made a new snippet in your model, but make sure to revectorize it before testing again. Now the correct snippet will be the top match, both when the user asks in the more technical way and when they ask in the simplified way. This same process can also be used if you ask your model something like, "Can I speak to a human?" and it replies that it doesn't know or incorrectly. That information can't be found on your website or in your files, but you'll probably want the chatbot to be able to reply to it. Find this question in History and write something like, "Yes, you can." Write your email address in the prompt, and a human colleague will get back to you. This is if you've set up the lead gen feature, of course. If you haven't, you might want to redirect the user to your contact form or something like that instead. You're going to want to spend a bit of time testing, as this is the sanity check of your model, before launching it and letting your users use it. It's important that it's replying correctly and keeping a conversation before you launch it. If it doesn't keep a conversation going, you may want to increase the threshold a bit. Sometimes as little as a 0.01 increase can mean the difference between keeping a conversation or not. We do recommend occasionally monitoring the history, but especially the first 2 weeks after launching it, so that you can always be confident it's working well. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.